This could be the most significant hardware leap Apple has attempted in over half a decade. New supply chain reports reveal that the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro Max is ditching incremental updates in favor of a complete architectural overhaul. We are talking about the industry's first true 2nm processor, a mechanical variable aperture camera system, and a redesigned display that fundamentally changes how you interact with the device. If you're holding onto an older device and debating whether to upgrade or wait, this buying decision comes down to real money and long-term value. At an expected starting price of $1,199 for the base model and climbing up to $1,599 for the higher storage tiers, spending this kind of cash requires a clear return on investment. Most people upgrading their smartphone this year are at risk of making a $1,200 mistake simply because they do not understand what is changing under the hood. Here is the truth about what is coming, what it actually delivers, and whether this flagship experience is worth your hard-earned money. The headline change begins with the all-new A20 Pro processor built on TSMC's cutting-edge 2nm manufacturing process. To put this into perspective, every flagship on the market today, including the latest Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra and Google Pixel devices, operates on 3nm or 4nm architectures. Moving to 2 nanometers is not just a modest bump on a spec sheet. In real-world terms, this design yields a projected 20% boost in raw processing speeds, alongside a 30% reduction in total power consumption. For creative professionals rendering 4K ProRes video on location, a task that currently takes 4 minutes on an older iPhone will finish in under 2.5 minutes. For mobile gamers and power users running intensive graphical workflows, frame rates remain rock solid without the phone turning into a pocket heater. That brings us to the memory architecture, where Apple is finally making a long overdue upgrade. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is set to feature 12 GB of ultra-fast unified RAM to support on-device artificial intelligence models. This added memory bandwidth ensures that complex tasks, instant photo rendering, and background applications never stutter or force a reload. It directly solves the biggest performance bottleneck power users face today. Most buyers comparing specs are completely missing this one detail that could make or break this purchase. Raw chip speed means nothing if a device cannot handle heat. Previous generations suffered from aggressive thermal throttling during heavy multitasking and long recording sessions. The iPhone 18 Pro Max reportedly integrates an advanced vapor chamber cooling system paired with a graphene thermal sheet. Instead of dropping brightness and capping processor performance after 20 minutes of heavy use, this new thermal layout sustains maximum clock speeds indefinitely. That single internal engineering change transforms this device into a true productivity powerhouse for creators and mobile professionals. Here is where things get very interesting for mobile photographers and filmmakers. The primary 48-megapixel camera is rumored to introduce a physical, mechanical variable aperture. Instead of relying purely on artificial software blur to simulate portrait depth, the lens physically opens and closes between an ultra-wide f/1.4 and a sharp f/2.8 aperture. In low-light environments, the wider physical opening lets in over 40% more natural light compared to fixed-lens competitors. That means cleaner nighttime shots, significantly less digital noise, and genuine optical depth of field that software algorithms cannot fake. When shooting video, this mechanical iris gives creators authentic cinematic background separation and superior exposure control in bright sunlight. If you're creating content for business or personal branding, this upgrade bridges the gap between a smartphone and a dedicated 4-figure cinema camera. The benchmark numbers look impressive on paper, but here is what real-world testing and supply chain analysis actually show. And the results were not what anyone expected. Apple is preparing to deploy its first proprietary in-house 5G modem and custom Wi-Fi 7 silicon, replacing external components from Qualcomm. This hardware consolidation delivers seamless handoffs between cellular towers, lower network latency for online gaming, and noticeably better power efficiency. In real-world battery testing models, these efficiency gains translate to an extra 2 to 3 hours of active screen-on time. You're looking at a device that easily powers through a full 30-hour window of demanding professional use without reaching for a charger. For frequent travelers and remote professionals, that level of battery reliability provides massive peace of mind. The front of the device is getting a dramatic visual refinement as well. Apple is moving critical Face ID biometric hardware underneath the active display panel, leaving only a tiny single cutout for the front-facing camera. The dynamic island shrinks down into a clean, minimal status area that maximizes your usable screen real estate. The LTPO OLED panel continues to offer a smooth 1 to 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate, but peak outdoor brightness now pushes toward 3000 nits. Even under direct midday sunlight, text remains sharp, high dynamic range content pops, and contrast levels stay perfectly balanced. When you hold this phone next to a competing flagship like the Samsung Galaxy Ultra, the visual difference in screen immersion and bezel reduction is immediately apparent. So after looking at the hardware, the thermal redesign, and the camera advancements, here is the critical financial question every buyer must answer. Is the iPhone 18 Pro Max a smart investment, or should you save your money? Let's break down the pricing and long-term ownership value. At $1,199, this is undeniably a premium purchase. However, when you calculate the cost of ownership over a typical 3 to 4 year upgrade cycle, the math tells a very compelling story. A flagship device that delivers top-tier performance for 4 years breaks down to roughly $25 to $30 per month. Factoring in Apple's historically high trade-in value, your net depreciation is significantly lower than almost any Android alternative on the market. If you're currently using an iPhone 13 Pro, iPhone 14 Pro, or an older standard model, upgrading to the 18 Pro Max represents a night and day transformation. You get double the RAM, a vastly superior variable aperture camera, game-changing battery endurance, and a display that feels generations ahead. For those users, this is an unequivocal by recommendation that delivers genuine day-to-day productivity gains. If you're an active content creator, commercial videographer, or high-volume business professional, the time saved rendering exports and shooting professional-grade RAW footage easily justifies the cost. The productivity upgrade directly pays for itself. On the other hand, if you're currently using an iPhone 16 Pro Max or an iPhone 17 Pro, the buying decision shifts dramatically. Your current device already possesses high-end processing power, capable cameras, and full access to modern software features. Spending upwards of $1,200 for modest generational refinements does not offer a high return on investment for casual, everyday tasks like messaging, browsing, and streaming media. If your daily routine does not push your hardware to its absolute limits, you should comfortably skip this release and hold onto your money. For mobile gamers who want unmatched sustained performance without thermal drop-offs, the vapor chamber redesign and 2nm graphics performance make this the most powerful gaming handheld on the market. Casual users who simply want a reliable phone for basic everyday use should look at previous generation models or standard tiers, which provide 90% of the core experience at a much lower price point. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is engineered specifically for power users, creators, and professionals who demand the absolute maximum capability from their mobile investment. Before you make your final buying decision, there is one more major market shift happening with upcoming competitor flagships that could alter the entire landscape.